Hi, I'm Max Kaiser. This is the Kaiser Report. You know, America doesn't have a government anymore. That's right. It's all frickin' corporations. Let's talk to Stacy. Stacy?
Max, you know, the Washington Post says democracy dies in darkness. The Washington Post also happens to be owned by Jeff Bezos, who is now worth $100 billion. Not since the days that the Biltmore estate here in North Carolina was built by the Vanderbilt family has such wealth amassed to one individual in America. Amazon, his company, is also seeking to build its second headquarters somewhere in the United States. And the most vile situation of democracy is dying, not in darkness, but in open for all the world to see. The City Hall, brought to you by Amazon. This is a headline from the Seattle Times, and it's Danny Westmeat wrote this, and he says, the review of some of the bids to woo Amazon's HQ2 to other cities and states shows it's not all about the money. In some cases, democracy itself is a bargaining chip. They are offering up, and we're going to go through these details, but they're offering up the taxes collected by the city to Amazon to disperse as it wishes in that city or that locality. So here he's saying, there's a perfect phrase for the guy who owns the Washington Post, where he's saying democracy dies in darkness. Here he's saying democracy itself is now a bargaining chip in order to get Jeff Bezos to bless your city.
Yeah, well, this is a troubling trend of corporatism. Corporations fusing with what's left of government to create a dystopian nightmare for anyone who's not a corporate insider. And in the case of Amazon, they are approaching these municipalities the same way the prison industry is approaching these municipalities. Remember, the prison industry promises to give all kinds of benefits to these municipalities in taking costs off their balance sheet, but in return, the municipality has to guarantee 98% occupancy of the prisons. That is to say, the municipality then tells its sheriffs and officers, go arrest people to fill the prisons, whether they're guilty or not, because that's the deal we made with a private prison operator like Corrections Corps of America, which is rebranded as something else. Now we've got Jeff Bezos coming into the picture, approaching these municipal leaders, these government officials like crack. And these crack going to Jeff saying, we need some more of that free money, Jeff.
Yeah, but
and it's disgusting, of course, because you'd think America would be run by something other than crack. But that's the way it is, baby.
Well, it's definitely a feudal sort of system. What you're seeing here is a feudal system where the serfs are like casting themselves in front of the Lord. Oh, Lord, have me. I will fight for you. Just give me some potatoes this month and I'll fight for you. Here we're going to see the shocking details of what is going on with Amazon pitching for their HQ2. Lord knows how long they're going to, like, what this is going to escalate to. Here, these are the opening bids that the Seattle Times looks at. But here's a great quote from him. There's a rising worry about corporations are taking over America. But after reviewing a slew of the bids by cities and states wooing Amazon's massive second headquarters, I don't think takeover quite captures what is going on. More like surrender. So this is a shocking thing to think of. Here's, again, you have to reiterate that this guy who owns the Washington Post says democracy dies in darkness. Again, it's happening right in front of your freaking face. The bright blue sunshine that we have right here in Durham, North Carolina, it's happening right here.
You promised details.
I'm going to go into the details. I don't think Durham is one of the cities that is pitching so grotesquely for it.
I want to hear the details. I want to hear the unseemly details of this takeover.
So, Amazon last month, they announced, we're looking for headquarters 2.0. Right? They already have one headquarters. So they're looking to hire 50,000 employees at this headquarters, and they've received 238 pitches. Only 30 of them have been made available to researchers, to journalists. So those 30 amply demonstrate our capitulation to corporate influence in politics. There's a new wave in which some city halls seem willing to go beyond just throwing money at Amazon. They're turning over the keys to democracy. For example, Chicago has offered to let Amazon pocket $1.32 billion in income taxes paid by its own workers. This is truly perverse. Called a personal income tax diversion, the workers must still pay the full taxes, but instead of the state getting the money to use for schools, roads, or whatever, Amazon would get to keep it all instead. So
okay.
Yeah.
So Amazon's taxing people.
Amazon is taxing those 50,000 employees,
Right.
the income tax that they pay to the state, but they get to collect it,
Right.
not the city.
Right. The Amazon's taxing people.
Yeah.
The corporation is taxing people.
Amazon is taxing their own employees.
Yeah. Okay. But essentially, Amazon, not the government, is taxing, applying a tax.
Yes.
We saw this with Obamacare. The pharmaceutical and drug companies and
True.
insurance companies.
Yeah, yeah.
The corporations were allowed to tax people individually, something called Obamacare. So now corporations are levying taxes on people. No taxation without representation. Where's my representation on Amazon stock? Unless I get a commensurate share of Amazon stock to participate in the growth of this corporate takeover, I'm under no obligation to fulfill this jihad from Jeff Bezos.
Okay.
Who's really, that's tyranny.
But okay.
That's tyranny. We would allow King George, we would let King Harry, and he's going to marry some American woman. They're going to try to take over America through the back door of their spawn. We would let Jeff Bezos come in here and tax us without a representation. That's tyranny.
So it gets worse than that.
Yeah, of course it gets worse.
That's Chicago's bid. So they look at Fresno. Fresno is even more grotesque in how they're kneeling before the Lord Bezos, asking, Lord Bezos, please shine your look upon us. Don't avert your gaze from our ugliness. Well, but the most far-reaching offers from Fresno, California. That city of 500,000 isn't offering any tax breaks. Instead, it has a novel plan to give Amazon special authority over how the company's taxes are spent. Fresno promises to funnel 85% of all taxes and fees generated by Amazon into a special fund. That money would be overseen by a board, half made up of Amazon officers, half from the city. They're supposed to spend the money on housing, roads, and parks in and around Amazon. By the way, you know, that railroad, of course, that was the last time
The robber barons.
That's the last time you had the robber barons. Vanderbilt built that big, giant Biltmore estate here. It's amazing to see it. But here, you know, that was the last time you saw the Vanderbilts had, you know, they kicked everybody out of the city, of all the locality around where they built their estates. They got to get mayors and people writing laws here and, you know, altering the way the estate runs. Here, they're doing the same thing. So they would put these officers from Amazon on the board of the tax authority in this Fresno, California, and Amazon would get to decide. And I'm going to go in, I want your response to that, but there's some gross quotes coming up from Fresno officials about this.
Right. Well,
see if you can outgross them.
Yeah, the age of the robber barons, yes, and the huge monopolies that were in America. They had Teddy Roosevelt come along, the trust buster, and he broke up these huge monopolies, and you know, the oil industry was broken up, of course, and people were thinking maybe Donald Trump could be a similar figure in American history to break up these monopolies. You know, maybe
you were hoping, yes.
There still could be on the cards. It's still early days, but you know, he should start to step in and break up these monopolies. But remember, a lot of these people who say they want jobs working for Amazon are looking forward to when Amazon can deliver via drone pharmaceuticals and their opiates. So these are drug addicts who are thinking, oh my God, I'll let my municipality do whatever I want with my future, my country, my life, my kids. And as long as I get drone delivery of heroin from Jeff Bezos, I'm happy with it.
Remember, Jeff Bezos owns the Washington Post. Democracy dies in darkness. That is driven by, quote, hashtag the resistance. The resistance wants Amazon, Google, YouTube, Twitter, Facebook, all these tech giants. They want them to determine determine what is speech that is good. They want them to determine what is the media that is accessible. What should the peasants, the people of Fresno be able to read or see? So it's part of the same story. But here, the pitch that Fresno gave to Amazon, come to us, Lord Bezos, right? The proposal shows a park with a sign, "This park brought to you by Amazon," with the company's smiling arrow corporate logo. Quote, "The community fund projects would give Amazon credit for the funding of each project," the proposal says. "The potential negative impacts from a project will be turned into positives, giving Amazon credit for mitigating it."
Yeah. Well, look, I mean, just look at where this all ends up. Look at Great Britain, for example. Once you leave the dominion of Buckingham Palace and you're out in the shires, you end up with toothless drunk people. That's what's going to happen to America. It's just going to be Seattle, Washington, Jeff Bezos' castle, and a lot of toothless drunk people who can't afford health care, who are looking for some free smack delivered by drone by this frickin' kleptocrat.
So when this journalist from the Seattle Times went to the economic development director of Fresno to ask, what the heck is this proposal about? Here's what the economic director of Fresno said, quote, "Rather than the money that the taxes and fees of Amazon to the city, rather than the money disappearing into a civic black hole, Amazon would have a say on where it will go," he told the Los Angeles Times. "Not for the fire department on the fringe of town, but to enhance their own investment in Fresno." So all those schmucks on the edge of town, not close to the Lord, not close to the castle, it becomes like the closer you are to the court, the more free goods you get from the peasants at that fringe of town.
Right, the civic black hole.
That's crazy.
That's tyrannical. That's like saying the constitutional black hole, the Bill of Rights black hole, the all things American black hole. That's saying that America is a giant black hole. And it's not the black hole from outer space, but it's Jeff Bezos' sphincter. That is the black hole that these municipal leaders are crawling up, trying to eat the peanuts out of his fecal matter. Now, a lot of people say, why do I mention fecal matter on the show so often? Because the situation is so freaking disgusting with these corporations taking over America, and all we get as a pushback is give us more free crack. It's disgusting.
Well, fecal matter leads us into the second half. I am staying for the second half because it goes with this first half. I've got a story for you, and actually it has something to do with fecal matter.
I can hardly wait. Don't go away. Much more coming your way. Stay right there.
Join me every Thursday on The Alex Salmon Show, when I'll be speaking to guests on the world of politics, sport, business, and show business. I'll see you then.
Afghanistan is not a good place. It's not a good country. And چون کسی که به شهرت میرسه خیلی برش خطرناک است برای افغانستان.
قبل از اینکه در شهرت برسد، دوستا در فیسبوک، دوستای مکتب، در کوچه، همسایه‌ها، حتی قوم خویش برش میگفت که تو هم شکل بروسلی است.
فامیلیم که از برادرایم به اسم عباس صدا میکنن و مردم افغانستان وقتی بیرون میرم بروسلی افغانستان صدا میکنن.
و این عباس علی که خود به بروسلی به اصطلاح عرضه کرده و در جهان فعلا به اصطلاح مشهور است و تایید نمیکنه. دین این مردود است، قبول نیست و اسلام رد میکنه هر آن عملی که
و همیشه تمرین کنه، چون اتفاق نمیکنه او این مسلمان است یا او نبود، اتفاق نمیکنه.
یک چیزی شده که مثلا یک نفر به شبیه بروسلی برآمده، یاد بروسلی زنده میکنه، باعث از این میشه که دوباره بروسلی در عرصه سینما برگرده یا در ورزش. بسیاری خوب است برای رشد ورزش.
Welcome back to the Kaiser Report. I'm Max Kaiser. Let's get back to discussion at hand. Stacey Herbert, what's going on? Tell us, continue.
So you ended on what should be a really gross topic that does not get discussed on financial news, but you mentioned fecal matter, and that actually does have something important to do with this system where we have this $100 billion heir, Jeff Bezos, taking over democracy, being offered up the keys to democracy across the United States in order for him to bring the second headquarters for Amazon around the United States.
Up the keister of democracy.
Yes. So here is a story from the news this past week. Hookworm, a disease of extreme poverty, is thriving in the U.S. South. Why? Children playing feet away from open pools of raw sewage, drinking water pumped beside cracked pipes of untreated waste, human feces flushed back into kitchen sinks and bathtubs whenever the rains come, people testing positive for hookworm, an intestinal parasite that thrives on extreme poverty. These are the findings of a new study into endemic tropical diseases, not in places usually associated with them in the developing world of sub-Saharan Africa and Asia, but in a corner of the richest nation on earth, Alabama. So here you have hookworm that is coming from the feces of open sewage, raw sewage being pumped. Basically, in Alabama, a lot of places do not have a public sewage system. Not counting the places like Jefferson County, Alabama, where JP Morgan got involved with that racket of that overpriced sewage system, which bankrupted the county. These are places outside of public sewage systems where people can't afford the $15,000 to have their own sewage system installed. So there's open sewage being poured right into the open, like, you hear in parts of India, for example.
Right. Now, this is what happens in a purely anarcho-capitalist, corporate-led, dystopian American jihad by financial terrorists who are in Flint, Michigan, forcing people to drink the water from the pipes, developing all kinds of diseases.
That's in the north, yep, Flint, Michigan. You have the lead in the water.
They have the fracking industry where people can light their water on fire in their home, causing all kinds of diseases. In Alabama, they're forcing people to swim in fecal matter. In other words, they live in like a slurry, like a pig slurry on a pig farm in North Carolina. Sometimes it overflows during a storm, and the main street is dominated by a sludge and pig slurry, comes down like a tsunami of poop. Now in Alabama, people live in a tsunami of poop. They're forced to live in their own slurry. They're walking around in a way that would be completely unacceptable in any country, in any state, in any municipality that has any thought of being dignified in any human way. And yet this is what we expect now in America.
Yeah, but it ruins, as the article points out, economic potential, because hookworm is an intestinal disease. It causes lethargy, lower aspiration, like you don't succeed as well, you don't do as well.
It's like an intestine, right? It's in your intestines, and it saps you of your energy.
Yeah.
It's like having Jamie Dimon live in your intestines. Remember Jamie Dimon, the tapeworm?
Yes.
He's a parasite. He lives in the intestines of the American financial system, depriving of its vitality. That's why Bitcoin was invented, to kill the Jamie Dimons of the world. Now we've got people who their intestines are infiltrated and infected with parasites, like little Jamie Dimons running around their little intestines, and they're lethargic, they can't work, and it could multi-generational, and you've got a whole new generation of the walking dead, the walking zombies, so that a few corporations can build rocket ships to Mars, because Jeff Bezos wants to buy real estate on Mars so that he can buy a solid 24-karat gold toilet bowl that he can take care of his fecal matter with a golden toilet bowl. So people in Alabama have got to eat each other's fecal matter and die. But why? Because this guy's a tyrannical, anti-American creep. Now, why do we have to report it here on this network? Why isn't Rachel Maddow talking about it? Why isn't MSNBC talking about it?
Because JP Morgan buys the advertisements on Rachel Maddow show, so that she doesn't talk about it. So,
Bezos just bought frickin' Washington Post. The Koch brothers financed to take over Time magazine.
Yeah. So Now, this study was done by Baylor University and Catherine Flowers of Alabama Center for Rural Enterprise. So here's a quote from Catherine Flowers, from ACRE, as they call it, looking at this situation. Remember, hookworm is caused by sewage, the raw sewage, and most of it comes through your feet. Basically, people walking through it, and the hookworm gets in there and basically then ruins your life. So she says about the fact that this exists, and about the oligarchy, the neo-feudal system we have of all these billionaires who buy so much great publicity on the likes of Rachel Maddow in the Washington Post, the likes of Bill Gates, the philanthropist, the guy who's like giving away his billions, Warren Buffett, they're helping all the people of Africa and Asia and blah, blah, blah. Well, here he says, our billionaire philanthropists, like Bill Gates, fund water treatment around the world, but they don't fund it here in the US because no one acknowledges that this level of poverty exists in the richest nation in the world, because nobody in the Washington Post or Rachel Maddow show will want to cover the fact that the poverty exists right here in your own backyard. This can explain a lot more about what's happening in our political system, our own economy, stupid, than somewhere overseas.
Well, that's right. They don't want to cover it. Nobody covers it. It's extreme poverty. It's right here in America's backyard. People are dying from intestinal, failure due to parasites that are right there. There's no infrastructure, and they've been sacrificed. Look, the fact is, like, the people, they're being sacrificed. They're being killed. They're being imprisoned for a buck. So you can make money in America if you're willing to engage in Holocaust, a corporate Holocaust. These people are being murdered by the million for a buck. That's the bottom line.
You're going half in light and half out of light. You're the half light man.
I'm coming, Lord.
Stay with it. Stay with it. Stay with it.
I'm in the shadow.
Don't turn the cameraman onto the set.
I've already destroyed the sound man.
So I want to turn to another thing about this problem. So here you have the situation where these people are living in open sewage, and why is it also not being addressed? This is, a part of the prison industrial complex, as you've mentioned, because they talked to one guy whose family, his cousin lives there, and they have an open sewage situation, and they have this gross problem of the no sewage. He added that people were afraid to report the problems, given the spate of criminal prosecutions that were launched by Alabama State between 2002 and 2008 against residents who were open piping sewage from their homes, unable to afford proper treatment systems. One grandmother was jailed over a weekend for failing to buy a septic tank that cost more than her entire annual income. So this is in Lowndes County, Alabama. By the way, this is a county that, if you're looking at the map, to the right is Montgomery and right to the left is Selma. So it's like an important sort of civil rights story. This is where, Jeff Sessions, the Attorney General, hails from. This is a situation where you're forced to have this septic system that costs more than your annual salary, or you go in prison, where some private contractor, private prison company collects $50,000 for a year for you to be there.
Yeah, okay. I mean, this is a destruction of an entire population for a corporation, as far as a corporatist, which is a nice way to say fascist, overthrow of America. Now, those people live in a fascist country run by neo-Nazis. That's a fair statement to say. There are other parts of the country, like San Francisco, Seattle, New York, that live in Ronald Reagan's city on a hill. That's a different country. But these people are living in a Holocaust hell for a buck. And their lives aren't worth the fecal matter that they're pooping out, according to the local municipal leaders.
Yeah, I mean, I also want to add, that here we have a situation that this is the entirety of this episode. Is the first half Jeff Bezos wants to open a new headquarters. People are throwing him like billions of dollars. I think New Jersey offered something like $4 billion. Here they're not willing to give $600 to deliver a sewage system to thousands of citizens, hundreds of thousands of citizens that live there.
Well, they're going to start I predict, a public service announcement in Alabama. It's going to be on TV. It's going to be extolling the virtues of eating fecal matter for nutritional value. They're going to sell it as a freeze-dried product you can buy in your local grocery store, and you're going to say, ain't this great? I'm eating Jeff Bezos' and I love it because it's giving me hookworm. I love America. Sad, but true.
Actually, you can sell your fecal matter. There's a big market for it because of this new theory that it has something to do...
fecal matter transplant.
Yeah,
Yeah, you can do it fecal matter. I told a lot of people about this. We've had our fecal matter transplanted.
Shut up.
That's not what married couples do?
But anyway, so again, we have a system where the rising wealth and income gap, a guy with $100 billion, here at the bottom, people are earning $15,000 and can't afford a sewage system, and that deprives them and their children of the ability to even advance further, to become ever competition for Jeff Bezos to disintermediate that. Because, so,
you know what they should have? They should have dog parks for people. People can go into the park and poop, and they get the bags to pick up your poop from and then you dispose of it this way. You need poop bags for people in the dog park walking for people. That's the solution. I mean, Jeff Bezos can sell the bags on Amazon. He can sell the service on Amazon. It's poop as a service. And it'll be Jeff Bezos will sell it on Amazon. You go to the Amazon enclosed park. You poop in the park, and you get an Amazon bag, and you pick up your poop, and then you send it to, like, let's say, some engineered fuel reprocessing plant to, fuel your car.
I would move. Democracy dies in darkness, but Max Kaiser dies in lightness.
What's wrong with these camera people? These guys, I'm firing everybody. You're going to move to Alabama, and you're going to have to live on Jeff Bezos' poop.
You have to move into the darkness so that you're in the... Anyway, it's time to wrap it up anyway. So
we have to leave? We have to go?
You should say goodbye and tell the guests where they can find us.
All right.
Now go into the darkness.
Where's the camera now?
Right there.
All right. Well, that's going to do it for this episode of the Kaiser Report with me, Max Kaiser, and Stacey Herbert. I'd like to thank our guest, Stacey Herbert. If you want to reach us on Twitter, it's Kaiser Report. Until next time, bye, y'all.